So after day 4 of the first test in Rawalpindi, it's time to ask George. Evan Collins asks, if Pakistan win by 1 wicket in the final over tomorrow, will it have been a good or bad declaration by England?
Good. And it would have been exciting, won't it? Look, if it had gone the other way, that result, by the barest of margins, that still would have been a great game, yeah? Do you not think that people would... I'm saying this as someone with a New Zealand passport, yeah? I think that you don't have to necessarily see your side win to recognise it's been a good game of cricket. And I think this could have been an absolute shocker. You know it could have been. You know, and I know, that you were dreading the 4:30 alarm call. And it was going to be really boring. And we've seen lots of games like that. And the fact is, now it's really exciting. And has it been judged perfectly? I don't know. Has it dangled a carrot? Absolutely. Has it made the game come alive, which when it looked like it was going to be dead? Yeah, I think so. On an absolute dog of a wicket, we've potentially got a really exciting final day. And there's bigger things than winning and losing. The fact is that I think the format is fighting for its life. It's fighting for relevance. And Ben Stokes has breathed a bit of life into it. I've got nothing but respect for him.
The King of Wessex asks, how could Baz revolutionise bowling as much as batting?
It's a really good question. I think he looks... I mean, I don't know who's behind what's happening. I always think it's more the captain than the coach, but I take the point. I think that you've seen some changes already. I mean, how many times has James Anderson not taken the new ball for England? Well, twice in 13 years. How many times have you seen him bowl that short in his opening spell before? Well, never. So there are quite a lot of things changing. But you're right, it's not as radical and quite as exciting. But maybe he hasn't got the resources to play with quite in the bowling stakes. I think, if everyone had been fit, you may have seen Wood and Overton play this game. That might have been a bit different. But yeah, it's a fair question. But I think there are things changing. I think the attitude generally is bolder and more aggressive. But perhaps it's not quite as obvious as when the batters are scoring at 7 and over.
Is it more that McCullum is more about liberation and perhaps Stokes is the sort of implementation element of this?
I don't know is the honest answer. I don't know yet whether McCullum is any more than an inspirational poster on the wall. He speaks in sound bites to us, but then he's not really letting us in. He doesn't really care. He's not making himself available to go for beers and dinner, and that's fine. It's not the way we've done things in the past few years, but that's fine. So I don't know what his methodology is and what makes him tick, if I'm honest. I think I do with Ben, and I think that I think he just empowers what Ben Stokes would do naturally. He just says, "Yep, do it, go for it. You've got my back in." I think modern coaching is very largely about not saying very much, not being critical of the players, creating the environment. I mean, we saw what happened even with Justin Langer. Win the Ashes, win a World Cup, you get fired because maybe you're a bit too intense. So a modern coach has to be very hands-off. But Ben Stokes, you've got this terrific cricketer who can lead by example with bat and ball and in the field, and has life experience and a lot of cricket nous. It's kind of the perfect time for him to be captain. He's got everybody's respect, opposition, teammates, everyone, for the way he plays and what he can do. And I think he realises that winning and losing isn't the biggest thing anyway. So I think there's a lot to like. I think he's changing the game. I think we're going to look back at him as a better captain than Brearley. I actually do. I do mean that.
Sushan asks, shouldn't there be extra points in the World Test Championship for run rates and sporting declarations?
Well, how do you do that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe. I don't hate the county championship scoring system, but you could, people, as soon as you have first innings leads and stuff like that, people play to that. I don't know, 5 days should be enough to get a result. We get a lot of results these days. I think it's all right.
Jack Rule asks, should those that are complaining about the pitch and a nailed-on draw take a long, hard look in the mirror? I mean, surely there's a difference between a bad pitch and ambitious, admirable declaration, isn't there?
Sure. And I think he means that question. I think it's a terrific question again, but it's sort of provocative. The pitch is poor. Whatever happens, if they get a result, it's despite the wicket, not because of it, clearly. But he's got a point about, people were saying on day 2 or even before, this is a nailed-on draw. And one, that shows that you've not been watching what England do and the way Ben Stokes plays. And 2, come on now, cricket's far too good a game to be that predictable. So, you've got to be a bit careful, like saying halfway through the match. This sort of declaration was always within reach with Ben Stokes. We knew that something like this could happen. Of course we did. So it shouldn't be that much of a surprise. And look, it may yet be a draw. I don't quite see how it would be, but maybe yet it's a draw. But it's still been a more exciting one than it could have been. So I take his point, and it's definitely right. He's definitely right that we shouldn't prejudge and preempt. But I think he'd accept it's still a dog of a wicket. I think everyone accepts that.
And finally, Andy G asks, is Joe Root actually England's best spinner? And should he bowl a bit more?
No and no. No. But where does that come from? I thought Will Jacks has done terrifically well. I mean, and obviously Jack Leach is the top spinner. I don't think Joe Root would claim to be the number 1 spinner by any means. I don't know where that's come from. Just because he bowls a nice bouncer. No, he shouldn't. He does his job absolutely fine. But no, I'm surprised you'd ask that question.
There's a small sample size here, but something tells me that I think he was a better bowler, better spinner when he was the captain.
Was he?
Don't know why. I'm sure there's no actual link to that.
He took a 5-foot on a silly wicket, didn't he? An underbad. And he bowled quite well for a while at Port Elizabeth. From memory, he would have had something like 4 for 15 at one stage, and then he kept himself on the 5er and suddenly had 4 for 80 from memory. And there will have been some sides he's been in where he's looked like the best spinner, but not in this one, no. I think he's obviously a terrific cricketer, and I think he's got a role to play in white ball cricket with the ball. He's got a role to play in red ball cricket too. But he mixes it up massively. He's a bit of a dart thrower. There's lots of cricketing knowledge and sense in what he does, but I'd be really, really uncomfortable going in with him as the top offie, yeah.